And welcome to this exclusive interview. Our guest today is the President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko. Mr. President, thank you very much for being with us. You came to Paris. You're among some 50 heads of states and government who decided to march after the tragic attacks in Paris. Why did you feel you needed to be here?
First of all, thank you for the invitation, Mark, for this interview. And I'm very proud, actually, to be here in Paris. It's a unique moment, not only in the French, but in the global history, when millions of the people are on the street with the signs, not only Je suis Charlie or Nous sommes Charlie, but I'm not afraid. And this is a very powerful message to the whole world, that the whole civilized nation are not afraid. We are not afraid of the terrorism. And we can win the terrorism only when we would be united. France are united. French people are united. And the world is united. The same way how the world is united in support of Ukraine in our fighting against terror. And the unique solidarity and unity which demonstrate European Union, countries of G7, countries of G20, from Japan to Canada, from United States to Australia. I think this is the only way how we can fight and win against terror.
I just want to go back to something you just said. You're saying Ukraine is facing terrorism? Is this what it is about? It's
Absolutely.
Not a civil war, it's not a war of aggression from Russia, it's terrorism?
This is a war and this is the aggression. And just to stop this war, we need just to fulfill the Minsk obligation and the Minsk agreement, which was signed on the 5th and 19th of September. And the key element of this Minsk agreement is first, ceasefire, second, close the border, third, withdraw all the foreign troops. And within 2 weeks, after border would be closed, we don't have any conflict. We don't have any victims. And this is what the world demanding them. And this is very important that any countries in Europe understand that this is not just a Ukrainian problem. This is the problem of the global security. Because the post-war global security system, when it built upon the permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, is not working anymore. And we should find out another way how to stop the terror, how to stop the aggression. And that we now are quite successful in this one.
I will go back to that, but I just want to, the words are important because you're speaking of terrorism. Terrorists are generally sponsored by states or sent by countries, or sometimes they're self-radicalized. In what way is what is happening in eastern Ukraine terrorism?
Mark, I'm spelling you by letters. This is a terror attack that was started from the hitting of the Malaysian airplane MH17 by the Russian anti-aircraft missile, which was delivered from Russia. And just a few hours ago, the brilliant work of the Dutch and German journalists delivered the new and very effective evidence how this missile was delivered from Kursk, from Russian Federation, how was they established in Snezhnoye, how the very qualified soldiers were preparing the attack on the civilian plane. In the whole world, there is not existing other word like a terror.
But who are the terrorists? Are they the people who are in the Donetsk and Lugansk area, or is it Russia?
Look, the terrorism has no nationality. The terrorism has no religion. This is a terrorist, and they are terrorists because they are killing the innocent people. And these innocent people are not only Ukrainian civilians. This is the people from all over the world. Because on the level of 10,000 meters above the Ukrainian land, it was almost 298 persons from different nationalities, Australian, Dutch, German, Malaysian, the American, from all over the world. And we understand that the terror are in front of our door, and we can win the terror attack, and we can win this battle only when we will be united. And I want to thank not only the French president, not only to the French government, but to the French people for the very strong solidarity which demonstrate to us. And the same way how Ukrainian people demonstrate their solidarity when the France and the French people were under attack of the terrorism.
I want to go back to the crisis. There was talk of a summit to be held on January 15th with the French president, with the German chancellor, with the Russian president Vladimir Putin. However, it seems that there's not enough progress right now on the ground to make such a summit useful.
Look, we undertake the enormous efforts that this summit in the Normandy format take place. I stressed here in France that in Normandy format, because we launched this format on the D-Day when I was just president-elect before my inauguration. But we, from the very first day of my presidency, want to demonstrate and implement my peace plan, which is very simple. Stop fire, complete ceasefire, full artillery silence.
But that's not happening.
That's not happening yet, and Ukraine pay an enormous and huge price for that. We already lost from the first ceasefire 217 lives of my soldiers and more than 1,000 lives of civilians. Enormous in the center of Europe in the 21st century. This is completely unacceptable. And we do nothing wrong, so the aggressor are on our territory. And we defended our
So if that's
land.
happening, why would you hold a summit then?
And we undertake the enormous efforts just to demonstrate the progress, because the first progress is already happened. We have a signature of all the parties to take the obligation to fulfill the key element of the peace plan. Ceasefire, immediate release of all the hostages, close the border, withdraw all the foreign troops, and the key element of the political dialogue, which is absolutely necessary in all the democratic societies, election. Local election under Ukrainian law, because this is Ukrainian territory. And we, and me as a president, and we as Ukrainian authorities, would be ready to discuss any question with the elected person, not with the bandits who take weapons in their hands and killing the innocent victims, either in the sky or on the street of the Ukrainian cities.
Deep down, do you trust Vladimir Putin?
This is not a question of trust.
It is a question of trust.
No.
Why not?
No, because we have, this is the question of, this is nothing to do with the personal trust. This is a question to keep the international law, because this is a brutal violation of all international law when they have an annex of Crimea and when they have an aggression on my territory, because we have more than 7,500 Russian soldiers. We have a fresh weapons which was delivered during the last days, not weeks,
so it's
but
continuing.
days. It's continuing, exactly. These weapons and ammunition crossing my border, which is not under my control. And I think that should be immediately stopped. And I want to declare that we are interested in this meeting, but that should be meeting for meeting. That should be meeting for delivering the practical results.
But do you think that because maybe of the economic crisis in Russia, Vladimir Putin might change his attitude? Maybe also because the sanctions are working to a certain extent? Do you feel this, or do you think that, on the contrary, he could become even more not willing to move at all?
First of all, we are nobody in the world want to bring some problems to Russia. Second, I can confirm you that sanction is really working, because the brutal violation of the international law, the aggression against the civilized country, the attack on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of my country should be punished. And this is not just defend Ukraine. I told you, this is the defending of the global security system. And this is very positive news that sanction is working. Second, corresponding to the sanction, this is the lowering the price on the main product of Russian export, oil and gas. And we are open and we are ready for finding out a safe facing version how to settle the conflict. I am a president of peace. I am not a president of war. And I understand that there is not existing the war solution by military means of the situation on Donetsk and Lugansk occupied by Russian troops and pro-Russian terrorists. We think that we should find out the solution how to solve this decision. And the last position, but last but not least, and maybe the most important, in the occupied territory where living, can you imagine, more than 3 million people. There is an absolutely disastrous humanitarian condition. They are not having food enough. We supply them natural gas. They not pay us for a penny. We supply them a natural gas up to from $6 to $7 million per day. We are ready to send them the humanitarian convoy.
But are you ready to give them some really substantial autonomy? Is this something?
We already have the special law about the special regime of the municipality, which has none any other of the Ukrainian regions. This law is already in force.
But are you ready to do more?
Yes, we already vote. This lady and me as a president signed this law.
Right.
And this means that, okay, please make an election, have a local council, elect the executive committee, and a significant part of the power, including the power, which language speaking, which song they are singing, significant part of the economic, the autonomy they have. We are ready even to propose them the special status of the free economic zone with a special regime with the European Union and Russia. But this is not a question of the interest of the people. This is not any conflict between people of Donbass and people of other part of Ukraine. This is the aggression which was parachuted on our territory from abroad.
I want to ask you about a recent bill that was passed in Parliament to bring Ukraine closer to NATO to start actually membership negotiations. Obviously, you know that important NATO members, starting with France and Germany, are not really favorable to Ukraine becoming a member of NATO. Is this disappointing for you to hear those misgivings?
First of all, this is not exactly like you explained right now. We have absolutely strong decision of the NATO summit in 2008 in Bucharest, which is completely clear, declare that the NATO door for Ukraine is open. Point number one. Point number two, we as Ukraine are not ready to be a NATO membership, to be a NATO member. We should provide a necessary reform, and this reform should be very deep to be adequate to the criteria. And by the way, 95% of this criteria is equal for the European Union, which we are dreaming to be, and the main purpose of my presidency in Ukraine is to be granted the membership perspective as a result of the necessary reform I do in my country. And when we have this opportunity and when we do the necessary reform, the question about the membership will be in our country after the 5-6 years, not earlier. And only then, and only after the referendum, which was done and which would be the absolutely strong will of the Ukrainian people, it would be the decision if we would be pretending, if we will make an application.
So you're saying NATO. You're optimistic that in several years
but
you will be accepted?
But our membership at NATO would not be decided neither in Moscow nor in any other capital of the world. We will be decided by Ukrainian people. This is a real democracy, and I am, as a democratic president, will do my best for that.
Just
now, everything else with this status, this is just a speculation, because beforehand we take a non-block status for the Ukraine in general. We think that that was a mistake, because we cannot defend ourselves if we would not have any form of cooperation with including with this cooperation with NATO. And I receive absolutely strong signal of support, which we will receive during my participation in NATO summit in Wales on the 5th of September this year. And this is just a continuation of our work to expanding the cooperation, including the cooperation with NATO on the multilateral and on the bilateral, including our very effective bilateral cooperation in the military technical sphere with France. I want to thank you for that.
Very last issue, the economy, very, very critical condition. Some people say the Ukrainian economy is verging on collapse. There's need for emergency help from the International Monetary Fund. There's pressure from Russia to repay a loan. Is the Ukrainian economy on the verge of collapse?
No. But
close to that?
No. But Ukrainian economy, because I want to be very accurate in the phrases. This mark you proposed from the very beginning of our meeting. But I think that the Ukrainian economy is in a very difficult situation. Why? Because every single day, Ukraine pay more than $10 million. Every single day. Yes, more than $10 million just for the war in occupied territory in Donetsk and Lugansk. This is enormous pressure for my country. And no country in the world can provide the boost of the economy during this is a very difficult type of war, because we are in a fighting with maybe the biggest and the most effective army on the continent, on the European continent. And that's why we, of course, we are ready and we provide all the necessary reform. We create the investment climate. We provide the rule of law. We rising up the independence of the court system. We demonstrate the very effective fighting against corruption. We do, which never done in my country for the 23 years from our independence. And this cooperation providing with a very effective coordination of our efforts with the International Monetary Fund, European Union, we are implementing all the points which are in our association agreement with the European Union, which was effectively signed by me on the 27th of June and ratified by our parliament by constitutional majority in September last year. And what is the association agreement? This is a program for the reform. This is a program for the development of the economy.
How much money do you need?
And that's we developing it.
How much, just last question, how much money do you need right now?
It is the result of the consultation with the International Monetary Fund, but I can tell you that altogether, including the multilateral from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and bilateral starting from Japan, Australia, Canada, United States, European Union and other countries, it should be from 13 to 15 billion additional money.
13 to 15 billion dollars additional money this year?
This and next year.
Okay. Thank you very much, President Poroshenko, for updating us on the situation in your country.
Thank you very much indeed for such a solidarity in the fighting against terror, which I see today in the eyes of the French people. I'm proud of you, really. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. President.